What's going on, everyone? So, the Los Angeles Lakers and the addressing of their free agent and vacancy at the center position. There are several names that are out there. You're seeing Brook Lopez, Steven Adams, Jericho Sims, Clint Capella, right? You have several guys, several names, and there's several more that are out there. Some are reasonable, some would be kind of Flyers take on, but you kind of look at the landscape. One who actually does hit free agency, that's something you got to keep in mind, right? Because with the new CBA, teams get to negotiate early on their free agents. You saw it this past season. It was the first year that it happened where teams got, I think it was like 3 days before free agency to kind of work out and hash out if they want to stick around. So you saw a couple guys that were expected to hit free agency that actually didn't hit free agency that stuck with their teams. So that is something to kind of keep an eye on. And the Lakers solving their center position, that being a backup or a starting level, could kind of be dictated on that. Now, I think the Lakers solving the starting position is probably going to be based on a Lakers trade. Right? They're going to have to pull off a trade if they really want a starting level center. Now, could you, if you absolutely had to, go and get like a Clint Capella? Right? I think Clint Capella could still start. Right? Atlanta, they kind of went the younger route. Clint Capella was still really good in a starting role. And that could be an argument that you'd have to a guy like Clint Capella. Like, hey, anywhere else you go, you're probably a backup, unless you go to like the Warriors or something like that, but you're probably a backup anywhere else, right? Come to us. You got a guy in Luka that make you look great. Let's make it happen, right? Like you could argue somebody like him, but outside of that, it's like everyone else, like Brook Lopez, probably not best to start at this stage of his career, right? Jericho Sims, probably a little too inexperienced to start right now. He'd probably be best as a backup. I do like Jericho Sims a lot, but I think him in a backup role would be ideal. Steven Adams, there's kind of questions about, one, can he stay healthy? Two, him in a starting role, right? As opposed to a backup. He's kind of been suited, towards the back end of his career as a backup. Right? I'd love to have him though. Right? There's several guys that you kind of go down the list and it's like, all right, who's the best option? And we all have our preferences, right? We all have our thoughts on like, okay, this guy, we get this guy, or let's get these two guys, and boom, problem solved. And, I've even made the argument, like, I would be fine. Like, if you went and got Clint Capella and like Jericho Sims and just were able to sign both of those guys and then use your assets and everything to kind of upgrade out on the perimeter and get some real like 3-and-D wings and stuff, I'd actually be okay with that because I don't think the Lakers need like a super skilled center. Right? I think it'd be great to have, right? It'd be great to have, a Mark Williams, but I don't think it's a complete necessity. Right? I don't think it's something that it's like, you have to have that. I think to me, it's kind of more, I look at the center position as like, you just basically need three things, right? You need a guy that can rebound, you need a guy that can defend, and you need a guy that can be a lob threat, right? Athleticism, right? And, ideally a guy that can defend in space and the pick and roll, right? Which kind of goes into defense. I prefer the versatile defense, but even if they can't, right? Just be able to protect the rim, right? Can you protect the rim? Can you grab the lobs, right? And hammer them home and we're good. I don't need a center to essentially be this like super duper star that you're stumping the ball down to and he's going to work. I don't need Joel Embiid out there. It'd be great to have. It'd be a luxury. It'd be a cherry on top of the cake, but it's not something that I think is like Lakers have to go get a skilled big, right? I think you'd be fine with a Clint Capella and like I said, a Jericho Sims or something like that, or a Steven Adams or whatever. If you can convince one of them like Clint Capella, like, hey, you'll start with us. And then, go again, get a Jericho Sims or something like that, who's a big, physical, strong, hyper athletic, and jump out the building type center, right? And then keep a Jackson Hayes or a Christian Koloko or something like that, and you're good. Right? Center's solved. Now you can use all your assets and your players and your tradable salaries and everything like that to now go solve other key positions. Can you round out the bench depth, right? Can you get some real athletes and athleticism out on the perimeter? I mean, you're seeing that how dire and important it is in the modern NBA, and the teams that keep making it and advancing further and further and further are not necessarily the most big. They're not the biggest teams. They're not the best shooting teams. They're not like, the best defensive teams even, right? Like it's teams that just have these athletes that just have the athleticism that, they have a nice mix. They have a nice balance of everything, but the only top 10 defense that's in the playoffs left are the Oklahoma City Thunder, right? So the whole like, oh, defense, like you have to have, a top 5 defense in order to win. I mean, that hasn't really been the thing for a couple seasons. I mean, Denver was like 15. They were second to last in defense when they won the championship. It's been a trend the last few years. Like the teams that have made the conference finals and stuff like that have not been the best defensive teams, but they've been, youthful, athletic, versatile, right? Have just a little bit of everything, right? So I kind of want the Lakers to shift in that mold, especially with Luka, who isn't super athletic and super hyper, and can just take guys off dribble just by blowing by them and stuff like that, right? Like I'd like some defensive versatility, some size, some athleticism out on the perimeter that can defend, and then just go get me an athletic, versatile big man that can run the pick and roll and lob it up and hammer it home, right? Like, I think the Lakers solving the center position obviously is the biggest necessity. I don't want to undersell the center position. It is by far the biggest necessity. But I don't think what is needed to solve it is as extreme or drastic as what many might think, right? Again, I would love to have, if you get a Daniel Gafford, sure, if you can get him for the right price, but if you have to give up a first and all this other stuff and you could just sign Clint Capella, right? Like, yeah, I'd take Daniel Gafford over Clint Capella, but I would take Clint Capella and, a Cam Johnson over just Daniel Gafford. You know what I mean? Like, or, if you could go get, Chicago's got a couple young guys, or, Houston's got a couple young guys. I've even thrown out the idea of like, can you get into the Giannis trade? Not specifically trading for Giannis, but can you get maybe some of these people? If he goes to Houston, can you work it out and be like, hey, maybe we can get a couple young guys? Or if he goes to the Nets, wouldn't you like some more assets, right? If you're the Bucks, right? Like, point is, like, there's ways to kind of be creative and figure it out. And I just think solve the center position. You may be able to do that through free agency. And I think that'd be fine, right? And then now you can use your assets. You can use everything you have to now go get other positions of need or just other players that, opportunistic trades, and kind of be patient and do what you need to do. But there is more, like, if you want that bona fide starter, right? Clear cut, this guy's the guy that's going to start, particularly for the long haul, then you're going to have to make a trade. Right? Realistically, you're going to have to pull off a trade if you want that guy for now and the future. But I don't hate the idea of just go get that stopgap guy for a year or two, fill out the rest of the roster and focus on the needs, because I don't think you need this like high-end center. But those are my thoughts and opinions. And as always, I pass a question on you. Let me know yours down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. It helps me a lot. As we enjoy these types of videos, truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.